Alright, welcome back to Comic Book History, episode 99. Yeah, basically the original plan for this episode was to talk about highlights from our comics 2011, 2012, but I figured though, hold it off for next episode. Because we have a character, I did look this up, I've never talked about this character in the show. That being Supergirl. Yes, the character who a lot of the time, except for a period of over 20, for about 30 years, has been generally depicted as the cousin of Superman. Well, first it was the prototype version to show up in Superman 123. It was a wish from the character for Jimmy Olsen, but then, because of that comic later launched, of course I bought this from the store. We had the debut of the Kira Zor-El version from this thing here. So from Action Comics 252, the cover is Great Guns, a girl flying. It's must be illusion. Look again, Superman. It's me, Supergirl, and I have all your powers. Yeah, as it says, plus Super Amazing Metallo. Yeah, he met the silver version of Metallo in this book. Basically, the commons, which this has mostly been intact. When it comes to Supergirl over the years. Very little has been altered per se. This book in particular, this version, well, the Silver Age version anyways, came from Argo City, which the way depicted in this book in the original Earth 1 continuity was it was lifted off the planet prior to planet destruction. It wasn't shrunken down into some bottle or whatever, and she is sent to Earth. And a lot of the time, the writers forgot the fact basically about the Argo, because basically she's living in Midville, she's living in orphanage, and eventually she is adopted by the Danvers. And eventually she goes to college, meets up with Lena Luthor. By the way, also she is a creation of these two people, Otto Bender and Al Pacito. Otto Bender, I believe he was also responsible for creating I know he worked on the early stories for the League of Superheroes. Yep. So, basically, right after her debut, she became a backup feature in Action Comics for a pretty good period of time. If you're really curious, how long was the feature lasting for? Well, it kind of started with 252, which is basically her debut appearance. And it went on, until about issue 307. It did skip some issues. She was not in issues 334, 331, 347, 351, 352, 355, 360. In 373, but mostly because she was in the comic. She also made guest appearances in Adventure Comics, Superboy, some issue of Superman, Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen. And basically, right after she wrapped up her time in Action Comics 307, DC decided to not really sure exactly why it is for. I've never heard of the exact reason for this. But they decided to move her to Adventure Comics. Yes, believe it or not, they basically they gave her the lead feature in Adventure Comics. Excuse me. With issue 381, and it lasted until 424. Then she left the book, then got her own solo book, which sadly lasted for 10 issues. Yep. And then she got featured for Superman Family, which lasted from issues 164 to 222, and also in this book, by the way, in the original story, one of her biggest accomplishments, two major things happened in the Action Comics run. One, she became public knowledge, and two, she got made JFK before he was assassinated. and mostly put her stories were similar to her cousin, just Silver Age hijinks. While also with Lex Luthor occasionally in her title and working with his sister, Lena Luthor. And then by the early 80s, she got another ongoing series. This time by... Now, those of you curious, who wrote the original... Let's see if I can find it here. So you're probably thinking, who wrote the... Now, the second volume was done by Paul Kupperberg. And that book is actually in a trade paperback. Yeah. That is pretty much... That's 100% completely true. Yeah. Excuse me. So, the original writer of the first one was Cary Bates. He wrote the original volume. And during the second volume for the book, she would come with different costume changes. One of the costumes she would have would be her last costume with the bandana around her head, which the comic was canceled 2 years because the reason why, because DC was going to kill her off in Crisis on Infinite Earths, because editorial mandate that there were way too many Kryptonians around. Let's just wipe all the Kryptonians except for Superman. Let's keep him around. And they also kept the suit beds too. And it's like, no more Kryptonians except Superman. He's the last one. This lasted for a few years. Excuse me. Until the creation of... Well, there was also the Earth 2 Supergirl, which I'll talk about her another time, that being Power Girl. Yes, so then with issue 16 of Superman, John Byrne created this character known as the Matrix. That this character is referred to as the Matrix Supergirl, and she was a Supergirl of the 1990s. Later adapted the identity of Lena Danvers. She did have a miniseries published, first miniseries as Supergirl, published in 1994, which was pretty much basically written by Roger Stern. Yep, he was the writer of the book. The artist of these volumes, the first one was Aaron Stoff. Volume 2 was done by the late Carmen Infantino, which Neil Adams, when I met him, he had some nice things to say about the guy. I never got a chance to meet him, sadly. Carmen, I met Neil. June Bergman did the artwork for Volume 3. And then by 1996, she got her first major ongoing, and it was long. To date, this was the longest volume to date for Supergirl. No volume since this book wrapped up has ever lasted as long as this book. This book has managed to last for 80 issues, had 2 annuals, a few one-shots, and the whole volume had one writer who I have met, who sadly since passed away just this year. That being Peter David. Yep. It's a book itself. It's really, really good. There's not a single bad issue of the whole series. Here's something really kind of dumb about DC Comics come this book. DC did not collect the whole thing for some reason. You're like, why? I have honestly no idea why in the world that the collection of this series is not exactly fully in trade. The second volume, that's fully in trade. Volume 2, not in trade. Volume 1, not in trade. Volume 4, 43 out of 80 issues are in trade, though the last 6 issues are in trade as part of Mary Harper Returns, which had to meet the Silver Age Supergirl. And I have done a long review on this one. Check it out on my Comic Corner. And then after this book wrapped up, then this version of Supergirl didn't do much. She got all a reign of hell, and then she stopped being Supergirl. They had another Supergirl named Cecile, who was sort of like Superman's wife in the future. Yeah, she also didn't much at all. And then came the book known as Superman Batman Apocalypse. Batman, the comic book, was published in 2003, which also was the same year that the Volume 4 ended. With the second story arc, we finally bring in the Kara Zor-El Supergirl, where this was basically written by Jeff Loeb and McGinnis, and Then she was around the book for another story arc, and then she eventually got her own ongoing series, which managed to last for 67 issues, which made this volume the second longest volume to date. Loeb would only do the first, 5 issues, and he would leave. Not really sure exactly why. Yeah. He did the same thing also with, I kid you not, he did the same thing with Nova. Yeah. Where he only does the opening story arc, and then he leaves. If I get a chance, I'll ask him the reason for it. And then he's replaced for about the first 30 issues of the book by Greg Rucka, with the exception of issue 12, which is done by Jim Palmer and Connor, which, when DC first collected this run, they skipped issue 12. You're like, why? Why would they skip issue 12? Honestly, I have no idea. Oh, in case you're curious though, the issue was written by Jillian Palmiotti, Amanda Connor, and also it was Justin Gray was on the book. You're like, really? What was the thing about this book? This issue was the introduction to Ali, aka Terra 2. Terra 3rd, actually. Rucker would only do one issue. Yeah, he did one issue, just issue 6, and then he left, and then he got replaced with Joe Kelly. But Ian Churchill was also the artist on these issues, who I heard Linkara mention basically he had difficulty drawing Supergirl properly. Yeah. So Joe Kelly did the book from issue 7 to issue 19. Of course, like I mentioned, 12, he did that with Jim Palmer and Connor, with Justin Gray. And then they got replaced with Tony Bedard, who I met this guy. Cool guy, me in person. I did ask him about this book. He did the book very briefly. I can find the issues he wrote here. Excuse me. I know he did the book until around issue 30, I think it was. Yeah, it's around issue 30th, because that was the time when Sterling Gates took over the book. Yep, Sterling Gates. Which, he had an amazing run on this book. Oh my god, this book was so good under his penmanship. So good. So good, in fact, he got to do another Supergirl book after this. Yep, he did it from issue 34. So I think Joe Kelly did about 33. He would actually leave with issue 59. And you're like, okay. Kelly Puthick is credited as a writer for this book. He did issues 23, 29, and 30 and 32. I think Joe Kelly was probably a fill-in there. Jane Pelly did some issues. The last few issues were done by Kelly Sue Haneke, who I've not met her per se. Her run on this book was very, very brief. She did the last 3 issues before the book had relaunch number 1. During this run, it powered several crossovers. We even had a version of Superwoman here, who is actually Lucy Lane. And they also Supergirl on Bizarro. She also joined she never joined Teen Titans per se. Linda did, but not this one. No. She did briefly join the Justice League because of editorial craziness during the late 2000s when I read. So she's part of James Robinson's run for Justice League. And then in 2011, the New 52 happened. Excuse me. Now, this book did have Tony Bedard write. He was actually the last writer for the book. This book managed to last for a whopping 40 issues. Yes, 40 issues. And the book was initially written by Michael Green. Yes, he wrote this book. He co-wrote it with Michael Allen Nelson. I think he did it for. He was originally for the first 12 issues. Michael Allen Nelson did issues 13 and 26. Then Tony McDonough himself would take over as the last writer. He told me this when I met him. That one thing he was not a fan of was Volume 4. He was not a fan of the midriff Supergirl. One with Shock Belly. Yeah, he was not a fan of that. He actually told me this in person. He actually despised the costume she had during that run. Her newer costume, for some weird reason, she had short hair. Her S was different. And they apparently got rid of the skirt. She had the skirt since the 60s. And they replaced it with what looked like to be a metal Speedo. And she would wear this outfit throughout this whole run. Got involved with the Red Lanterns. And also been part of some really bad crossovers. And then when the book ended, it's like she briefly lost her powers. She met up with Connor Kent, the New 52 Connor Kent. Then did nothing for an entire year. I'm not kidding about that, because once the book wrapped up issue 40, no one saw her again until she popped up in the Foundation Superman story, where apparently people in China would try to reignite her powers because she lost her powers at the end of the 6th volume of the series. Then she got a brand new ongoing right after this, a very good volume under this writer, that being Steve Orlando. Which, of course, he was joined by Jody Houser, part of the book. She also co-wrote the Just League America one-shots with him for the launch of the 5th volume Just League America. Book was really good. Had like her confronting basically New 52 version of Cyborg Superman, which in this current continuity was actually her father. Yep. And also a team with Supergirl. Book was amazing. I love the Rebirth stuff. Like, for me anyways, it's something that's I've always... Now, some people basically didn't like the Rebirth stuff because it felt like too much nostalgia. For me, I liked it because I enjoyed the writing. Because I thought the writing was really good. Nothing terrible. Nobody leave because of issues. And then, this was really, really weird. I have never heard of this for a title before. Where, actually this happened one other time prior to this, though it got canceled because of the story. But this is really weird. So, after 20 issues, book got canceled. And the reason? You're gonna love this. Brian Michael Bendis was coming to DC Comics. And they ended this book along with Super Sons because no one had any idea what the heck his plans were. And then the book came back. It was uncanceled, managed to last for another 22 issues. It actually surpassed the previous volume by 2 issues, surprisingly. Well, it was first written by Mark Andrago, which had her, by the way, the costume on the cover, if you see the books, that was not the costume she wore in the book. Basically, her whole thing was hunting after the guy who destroyed Krypton, because that was Bendis retcon. And also using his axe. And then eventually she got possessed by the infested stuff. Then Mark Andrago left and got replaced with Jody Houser, who had been the final writer in this book. And then the book ended. After 42 issues. Yeah, 42 issues and 1 annual. And you probably think, like, okay, so what did she do after book wrapped up? Nothing until the Woman of Tomorrow miniseries came out. which is written by Tom King. And this book is being adapted for the Supergirl movie, which Tom King is helping with. And then, for some weird reason, they decided to make her a recurring character to have this team stuff with Action Comics. And now she's got a brand new ongoing by Sophie Campbell. I don't have much opinion on it per se. I read like an issue 2. It's not terrible. I know Sophie Campbell herself is not somebody who is well liked by comic fans recently, given her work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, her run in that book was not well received. No, it was not. I was kind of surprised that she became the writer of Supergirl. Yeah. Now, when she did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was a run that was not well received. My biggest issue with her run on TMNT was the lack of involvement by Casey Jones. Like, if you read that entire run, that 50-issue run, he appeared in like 4 issues of that whole book. It's like she did not want to use the character at all. She also the character Jenka getting a relationship with a pig girl, which the next volume had them break up. Despite the fact that prior to her before Jenka became a turtle, they had it where it was implied Casey was beginning to become a couple with her. It's like it was implied that she had things for Casey, then nothing came of it. And I do mean nothing. Yeah. But Supergirl. If you want my... Okay, so recommendations for volumes of Supergirl. Basically read all the volumes for Supergirl. Like all the previous books. Like the original volume is pretty good. Volume 2 is actually pretty good as well. Yeah, this book basically had her headquartered out of Chicago. But in volumes 3, 4, and 5, he's headquartered out of Metropolis. And I think volume 6 as well. 7, she's headquartered out of National City. Mainly because the comic book was taking a lot of inspiration from the Supergirl TV show. Heck, they included Cat Grant and made her kind of look like the actress from the show. So they aged up a woman who was younger previously because the actress who played her is an older lady. Yeah. I get the National City thing because it's something different. So I guess DC figured though, why the heck not? But yeah, not much else to say about Supergirl. Oh, and little interesting thing about Supergirl is that I know the live action version of her is a brunette, but in the comics she's always been blonde. Always been blonde. Excuse me. And when Linda Amber Supergirl in the 1990s, the costume you see, if anybody see the Superman animated series, the costume she wears on there, that was the costume in the comics at that point. So it was simply a t-shirt, shorts, and a cape. Eventually, later on, when she popped up in Justice League Unlimited, she did basically, in her one appearance in the show, she did finally start wearing the new costume she was wearing, which was the Emma Guinness costume that was basically in the comics. They had her wear that. Supergirl herself in live action. Well, she's had a few different live action ones. First it was, well, let's see. The first noteworthy one was Helen Slater. Yep, she was the original Supergirl. And then the actress returned for the Supergirl TV show, where she played Supergirl's adopted mother. Good choice. And get this, her husband was played by Dean Cain, the 90s Superman. And then the next thing done with live action with her would not be until Smallville, where she's played by Laura Vandiver, who was on there for during the second half of the show. And then she got her own TV show, which is part of the CW universe, which I kind of enjoyed the show. I had watched the first... I know the series wrapped up, I think it was after like 6 seasons, I think it was. Yeah, 6 seasons. I watched the first 3. I have not had a chance to watch the rest. My dad surprisingly watched this whole series from start to finish. And I have heard some minor complaints related to the Supergirl TV show. For instance, the costume was not very well liked by some people. They thought it was a Halloween costume. And I do agree with the opinion about Melissa Bonnet. She was a glue to hell together. I do agree with that opinion. Because she's probably the best thing about the TV show itself. They gave her a sister, which, if you're curious, they kind of didn't really bring Alex Danvers to comics. They also have in the show where, like, they made her into a lesbian, which had her date Maggie Sawyer, who was a lesbian in the comics, except they made the actress Hispanic for some reason. Not sure why, given the fact the character's white in the comics. Like, I get that if it was Ray Montoya, but this is Maggie Sawyer. A character who's always picked as white. Yeah, it was bizarre to say the least. Where she was on the show very briefly, came out to her as a lesbian, and it's like, yeah, let's have them break up and basically implied to have sex, and like, nothing. I'm like, if I'm expecting basically 2 women having sex, I expect basically like the aftermath to be like, okay, in bed, it looked like they're butt naked. They did this with the Crisis Earth Yes crossover, where, get this, they had Alex have a one-night stand with Sarah Lance. And she was butt naked there, but they couldn't be butt naked with Maggie Sawyer for some reason. Not really sure the reason for that. It was one of the most bizarre things I have ever seen. Actually, it was not... Yeah, it was Crisis Earth X, I think it was. Yes, not Invasion. Yeah. Invasion was very loose, and then, of course, she became definitely part of the Crisis Earth X stuff. I did watch the Crisis Earth live-action one. That was really good. I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the fact she was heavily part of that story. And unlike the original story, she didn't die. Nope. And plus, one thing awesome about the story is in the last part, we had a cameo by the man who actually killed her and Barry Allen in the original story, which being Marv Wolfman. It would have been really cool if they had George Perez. I wonder what his opinion was of the Supergirl TV show or the universe as a whole. Yeah. Of course, also Supergirl's picked animation. The only animation I could think of she picked in, there was Superman, Justice League, obviously. She was picked in Batman Apocalypse, which originally that was going to be called Supergirl, but they changed it because of the Wonder Woman movie apparently not doing well in DVD sales. They changed the name for some reason. Heck, they canceled the Batgirl movie they were going to do. She was also featured on Bound, which I have not seen yet. And let's see, she's featured in some other stuff per se. For cartoon, aside from Superman and Batman Apocalypse, let's see, she's featured in the Harley Quinn TV show. Apparently, My Avenger Superman, which I watched the first episode of this show. Here's the thing: if people like the show, that's fine. I have no issue with anybody who likes this show. Me personally, I watched this show and I'm like, what the heck is this? They made Superman in the show to be like Goku. Yes, they made Superman a Goku ripoff. Yeah, and apparently I think when they opened the episode, they had Slade Wilson, a.k.a. Deathstroke, in one episode. And I saw him like, that is not Deathstroke. That is his son, Grant. Because for some weird reason, they made Slade really young. Despite the fact that all appearances that Superman's ever met him, he's always depicted as old. Not this super young. And Leslie and Livewire did have powers in the show. What I saw for the first episode. Now, here's the thing. I have not watched the whole show, per se. Also, they made Lois Lane. They changed her ethnicity for some weird reason. Not really sure exactly why. But they did. It was one of the most weirdest things I've ever seen for the character. Let's see if we can find it here. So, they kind of made her, they made her Korean. Well, mostly put, they made her Asian. Yeah. But that's something else altogether. But in the case of Supergirl herself, I didn't know what she looked like in the show because I didn't watch past the first episode because I did not like the first episode at all. It was pretty bad first episode. I've never seen her in an episode this bad. The animation was so wonky. Like, if you like a show, fine. Me, just didn't like it. Yep, but I'm in it right here. So that's pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. I was thinking of time to do one more anime, but I'm gonna have to call it out because I have to get early in the morning for church. Okay, so I expect to see tomorrow reviews for, well, Tokyo was the Comrade, Tale of the Blood Rings, Spy X Family, The Band's Competition, Anime Electronics, Arma Half, and Comrade and at least one more Comic Corner. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye.